The New York Rangers definitely have their issues defensively, and at this upcoming NHL trade deadline in 2025, the Rangers could very well end up looking to acquire some defensemen, or at least one at the deadline there, who is a true top four caliber player, or maybe even a top pairing kind of guy to really help bolster this defense core that we definitely know is lacking some overall talent, reliable defensive play, and puck moving ability. So in today's video, I know it's very, very early, but we're going to take a look at two of my favorite defense targets for the New York Rangers to go out there and possibly acquire at this or around the NHL trade deadline. As, like I said, this team definitely have some holes on the defensive end. They've got some big problems, some issues, but these two defensemen, if we acquire at least one of them, could definitely help fill some of these needs that we definitely still have. So let's take a look at two of these players. I know it's early, but it's still fun to take a look at these players and kind of see how things go. But starting off here with the first player, and that is Marcus Petterson of the Pittsburgh Penguins. I know it's a division rival, but the Rangers have made, a few trades pretty recently with the Penguins, and, Kyle Dubas he's taken over there, as we end up, seeing Chad Ruhwedel, who got traded for by the Rangers at this past NHL trade deadline. Just a nice kind of depth defenseman he was for us, and obviously ended up getting re-signed as well. And then we also, this past summer, made a trade for, a top six caliber right winger in Riley Smith, who has been a decent acquisition so far. Wouldn't say it's been an amazing trade or like an elite return, but he's definitely been pretty solid there and definitely didn't cost too much. So I think it's definitely a possibility we do see another trade happen with the Rangers and Penguins, as the Penguins are not very good this year at all, and the Rangers are obviously more than likely going to be buyers, let's be honest here. So I think it makes a lot of sense here for the Penguins to look to move off Marcus as well. He is an expiring contract. He's a rental, so it makes a lot of sense for them to move on from him. And he also does have a pretty manageable cap hit, right around $4 million, so we wouldn't even necessarily have to see him retained, although it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if the Rangers do want to go out there and acquire some other players as well. Getting him retained and bringing that down to possibly, like $2 million or around there would not be the worst thing at all. But just in general, Marcus is a very solid, reliable, true top four caliber defenseman. He's not necessarily a, elite defenseman, but he definitely, I would say, is a top four caliber guy, which we definitely could use another one of those. And he does have very good size as well at 6'3". He's quite physical, which you never can have enough of. I mean, especially when it comes to the playoffs there. We know how, physically tough and just really hard to play against the, obviously, Florida Panthers were, who ended up winning the Stanley Cup. And we can add in a guy here who may not be like a Radko Gudas out there, hitting literally everything that moves and, fighting everyone and doing all things like that. But, adding in a guy like Marcus, who has some pretty physical play there, has some good size, 6'3", and does block a good amount of shots as well, would not be a bad thing at all. And another big thing with him is, for the last 3 seasons, he has played at least on average 20-plus minutes per night, which is very nice to see. And the last 2 seasons, including this one, he's played at least 22 or more per night as well. So he's eating up a lot of ice time, like a true top four caliber defenseman would, which is nice to see. And although, he's not playing on a great team this season, he is actually putting up some pretty great offensive numbers, for defensemen. He's on pace right now for a career high in points, which it was nice to see, as well as just being a really good, reliable defenseman. I would say he's more of a defensive guy, but this season, like I said, on pace for a career high in points, which is not too bad at all. And we'll take a look at his stats in a minute. But overall, I think it's just a pretty solid fit for this Rangers team to fit in there in that top four. He's a solid puck mover, not a great one, but I would say he is pretty solid. He's better than the guy like Ryan Lindgren in that department, I would say. So definitely would be an upgrade on that side of things there, and maybe Lindgren, kind of drops down to the third pair or something like that. You can obviously change things around there. We'll see what happens if a trade does happen, but either way, I do think he would be a pretty solid fit on this team. He also does not turn 29 until May, so it's not like he's necessarily young, but he's also not too old where the Rangers would not really look to re-sign him, where I do think this is a guy who, although an expiring contract, you can kind of turn that into, not just being a rental, where you bring him in for the rest of the season there, and then you look to re-sign him as well, because this team is going to have a good amount of cap space this upcoming offseason, especially if we do move on from Jacob Trouba and or Keandre Miller, which I do think is a possibility. And maybe, he ends up being involved in a trade at the deadline. I'm talking about Miller there. But I think in general, though, with the amount of cap space we're going to have, we definitely need to go out there and acquire and, sign or trade for, the top 4 caliber guy. And Marcus could very well end up being that. You trade for him at the deadline there, and you end up re-signing him as well. I think that would be a pretty smart decision there by Chris Drury. And I don't think he'd cost an insane amount, and it definitely wouldn't cost as much as the next guy we'll talk about in a minute or two. But taking a look now at the stats and kind of what Marcus has done offensively so far this season, he's got 21 games played, 1 goal, 8 assists, 9 total points. He has a -5, but playing on a very bad Pittsburgh Penguins team. He is, a guy who has 19 penalty minutes, so a decent amount there, but nothing too insane. He's averaging 22 minutes and 27 seconds per night, so like I said, eating up a good amount of ice time there, which is quite nice. He also has 38 block shots in 21 games played, which, almost 2 per game, not bad, and has 21 hits in 21 games played, so, not bad at all in the physical department at all. He definitely can be a physical guy and block a lot of shots, eat up a lot of ice time, contribute here and there offensively, and just be a pretty solid, reliable, more defensive defenseman, but definitely is just an all-around very solid player, and they do think would be a really great fit on this team. And now we have a right-handed defenseman here who I definitely would say is a better overall player than Marcus, and that is Rasmus Andersson of the Calgary Flames. Now, the one issue and big one here is right now the Flames aren't looking necessarily like sellers, although there have been obviously some rumors around Rasmus possibly getting moved. We'll have to wait and see whether or not the Flames kind of maybe fall back a bit. Obviously, we're still ways away from the deadline, so a lot of things can change, and the Flames could kind of hit a wall there and obviously just completely drop off. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but if the Flames are sellers, which I kind of am guessing they probably will be, although they are in a decent spot right now, Rasmus is a guy who they'll look to definitely trade away, as he is also, just like Marcus, a rental. He's an expiring contract, so he probably will get moved if they're looking to be sellers, obviously, and this is a guy who I think could truly have a really massive impact on this New York Rangers team and could be a piece to help really put us over the top there and get us to that cup final and possibly help us win a cup potentially. Obviously, there are other moves to be made as well, hopefully, but Rasmus is a guy who I right now would think is probably my top target for this New York Rangers team. He's a right-handed defenseman, but I just think would be such a good fit on this team, and is also a guy who you look to trade for, but also look to re-sign as well, because we're going to have a good amount of cap space, like I said. And if you can move off of a guy like Jacob Trouba, you have more than enough money to bring in Rasmus Andersson back on a new contract, which will probably be in that 5 to 7 year range, I would guess. As of right now, he is 28 years old, turning 29 in October, so you're not turning 29 for almost a year now. He's not necessarily young, but definitely not too old either, just like Marcus, kind of in the prime of their careers right now. And I would assume Rasmus is probably going to get like at least a 6-7 year deal, I'd imagine, but I would not be against giving him that, because this is a player who is a true top pairing kind of guy, and if he's on your second pair, you're doing something very good there. So him and Adam Fox as kind of a 1-2 punch there on the the first and second pair, I think would be absolutely phenomenal. And then having Braden Schneider as kind of your third defenseman, I think would just be insane. I mean, having a 1-2-3 punch of Foxy, Anderson, and Schneider would really spread out the depth there, and you kind of almost roll 3 defense pairs as well. So I think this could be an absolutely stellar move for this team. Maybe Schneider plays a little on the left as well, possibly. You never know, but either way, I'm a big fan of Rasmus, and I think he'd be such a good player for this team. True top pairing kind of guy, like I said, and definitely is just an all-around, offensively and defensively, very good defenseman. Now, he is going to cost, I'd imagine, quite a bit, so maybe this is a deal where you're doing kind of a package, and maybe you're getting a forward back in return as well from the Flames there, and you're kind of shipping off Keandre Miller and a pick and a prospect or two. It's going to cost a lot there, but I think this is a guy who you definitely need to look to go and acquire, not only for this season to help us win now, but also in the future as well, because this is a guy who I think should be one of our top free agent targets. And if we can bring him in now, obviously trade for at the deadline, and then also re-sign him, I think this could be Just such a good fit for this Rangers team, not only for this season, but long-term as well. He is only 6'1" there, so it's not like he has insane size, but is pretty physical. Not extremely, but somewhat physical there. But he does block an insane amount of shots. And like I said, we'll take a look at those stats in a second. But this is someone who blocks a crazy amount of shots there. He's quite physical, not as physical as Marcus is, but still somewhat physical there. And just a really solid defenseman. I mean, he's a much better puck mover and offensive guy than Marcus. I would say defensively, they're somewhat close there, but I honestly would probably give the edge to Rasmus as well. You could definitely say that. I think Rasmus is just a really solid defenseman all around. He's really good, and that puck moving ability, I think, is something that this team definitely needs more of on the back end, and he definitely provides that. He also is someone who eats up an insane amount of ice time, a true top pairing kind of guy ice time wise. So far this season is averaging 24 minutes and 48 seconds per night, which is just insane. Almost 25 minutes per game there, so not bad at all. And also the last 3 seasons has played at least, on average per night, 23 minutes and 50 seconds. The last 3 seasons combined, on average, is at least 250. So I think that's absolutely great to see there. He eats up a lot of ice time, good defensively, good offensively, fairly physical, blocks a lot of shots there, has a lot of experience in the NHL there, and I just think is such a great player. And that puck moving ability is very, very nice. He's just an all-around really reliable guy, and assuming the Flames are going to be sellers, I think would just be such a great fit on this team. Now taking a look, though, at his stats and what he's done so far this season, he's on pace to have a really good season offensively, points-wise. He's got 5 goals already as well in 19 games for a defenseman, which is not bad at all. He's got 7 assists there, 12 total points, and it's not like he's someone who just kind of relies on the power play either. He only has 1 power play point this season, which is the goal, so 11 of his 12 points are at even strength there, so I think that's a big thing as well. 4 of his 5 goals and 7 of his 7 assists are at even strength, which is very nice to see. He's a +2 and not playing on a, necessarily great Flames team. I mean, they're not terrible this year, not as bad as the Penguins are, for example, but they're definitely not some, true contending team, obviously. He also is a guy who has 62 hits so far in 19 games played. He's averaging over 3 hits per game. Last season had 186 hits in 78 games played. And, this season, hits-wise, has 10 hits in 19 games, so nothing insane. Last season had 42 hits. Season before that at 50, 63, 49. So he's not some insanely physical guy, but definitely not too soft out there, which is kind of nice. And just like Petterson, his cap hit is pretty team-friendly right now as well, only at $4.55 million. The Rangers would not require the Flames to obviously retain some money, but it definitely could help this Rangers team go out there and acquire some other very talented players to really bolster up this team as well. But anyways, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, definitely hit that like and subscribe button for a ton more New York Rangers content. Definitely comment down below, though, your thoughts on Rasmus Andersson and Marcus Petterson. Who's your favorite out of these two there? I gave you a left-handed and a right-handed guy. Marcus will be a bit on the cheaper end than a guy like Rasmus will, but I think Rasmus is a better kind of all-around guy, whereas you're getting some really solid defensive play and some solid offensive play and decent puck moving ability out of Marcus, a little more physicality, but you're getting that better all-around player in Rasmus Andersson, who will definitely cost a lot more and will probably cost a lot more to re-sign as well, but I definitely would think is a guy who probably will have a much better impact if he were to get traded for by the Rangers. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next one. See ya.